Go up into your attic right now. If you cannot go up today, think about the last time you were up there. Do you remember the heat? Not warm, not stuffy. The kind of heat that hits you in the face like opening an oven door. In July, that attic runs between 140 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And every single degree of that heat is pushing through your ceiling drywall into your bedrooms and forcing your air conditioner to run longer, harder, and more expensively than it was ever designed to run. The average American household spends over $200 a month cooling a house in July. Roughly 60% of that cost comes directly from attic heat pushing through the ceiling. That is $120 a month you are paying because nobody told you about $3 of aluminum foil. 3 miles down the road, there is a farmhouse built in 1922. I walked into the upstairs bedroom of that house on a July afternoon when it was 96 degrees outside. The bedroom was 73 degrees. No central air running. No attic fan. I went up into the attic to find out why. Stapled between every rafter from the ridge to the eaves was a single layer of reflective aluminum sheeting. Not insulation. Not batting. Not foam. A layer of material thinner than a piece of cardboard, reflecting 97% of the radiant heat from the roof back upward before it could reach the ceiling below. No electricity. No moving parts. No contractor. $3 per 100 square feet. And it had been up there since 1958. If you already own a house, stay with me. Because this is a one-afternoon installation that works in any attic regardless of age, existing insulation, or roof type. You do not need permits. You do not need a contractor. You need a staple gun, a utility knife, and $3 per 100 square feet of attic floor space. I am going to show you exactly what that material is. I am going to show you the entry from a 1957 building science bulletin published by the Florida Agricultural Extension Service that documented radiant barrier installations in over 22,000 homes across the southeastern United States. And I'm going to show you why the American HVAC industry, which generates over $120 billion every year, has spent 60 years making sure you buy a bigger air conditioner instead of spending $3 on what stops the heat before it enters your house. This is not fiberglass insulation. This is not spray foam. This is not a product that requires professional installation or loses effectiveness over time. This is a layer of aluminum that reflects radiant heat the same way a mirror reflects light. And a roll of it costs $3 at any hardware store. The first time I visited that farmhouse near Gainesville, Florida, I asked the man who owned it, a farmer named Thomas Aldrich, when he had installed the reflective sheeting. He was 79 years old. He said his father had stapled it up in 1958 after reading about it in a university bulletin. He said it had never been replaced. He said his father's cooling bill dropped by $80 a month the first summer it went in. In 1958 dollars. I stood in that attic for a long time looking at those original sheets. Still reflective. Still working. 66 years of Florida summers. The American insulation industry quietly consolidated its control over attic treatment recommendations sometime around 1960. Before 1960, radiant barrier installations appeared in every building science guide published in hot climate states. After 1960, the guides recommended fiberglass batting, a product that stops conductive heat transfer but does almost nothing against radiant heat. Here is why that matters. Heat moves through your attic in two ways. Conductive heat, heat moving through solid material like hot air warming the drywall from above. Radiant heat, heat traveling as infrared radiation directly from the hot roof surface to anything below it, including your ceiling, without needing to warm the air in between. Fiberglass insulation stops conductive heat. It does almost nothing against radiant heat. Think of it like this. Fiberglass is a winter coat. It slows heat moving through solid material, but radiant heat does not move through material. It travels through air like light travels through a window. A winter coat does not stop sunlight from warming your face. A reflective barrier does. That is the difference between what the insulation industry sold you and what Thomas Aldrich's father installed in 1958. The 1957 Florida Extension Bulletin documented the results precisely. Page 8 describes what the bulletin calls the rafter-mounted reflective barrier system. Here is the exact installation. Reflective aluminum foil insulation, sold at any hardware store as radiant barrier foil, sometimes labeled as attic foil. At current prices, a 500 square foot roll costs between $12 and $15. That is $3 per 100 square feet. Cut sections to fit between your rafters from the ridge beam to the eave. Staple to the underside of the roof deck, the flat boards directly under your shingles, with a standard staple gun. Leave a 1-inch air gap between the foil and the roof deck on both sides. The air gap is critical. Radiant barriers work by reflecting heat back toward its source. If the foil touches the roof deck, it conducts heat instead of reflecting it. 1 inch of air on each side. That is the entire technical requirement. Work from the eave toward the ridge in sections. Overlap each section by 2 inches. A typical 1,500 square foot house has roughly 1,800 square feet of attic rafter surface. Total material cost, between $50 and $60. Total installation time, 1 afternoon. The 1957 bulletin documented the results in 22,000 homes across Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. Average reduction in cooling load, 42%. Average monthly savings on cooling bills, between $60 and $90. Thomas Aldrich's father saved $80 a month in 1958. In today's dollars, that is over $800 a summer, from 1 afternoon and $3 per 100 square feet. Now here is the part most people miss, and it makes the system work in winter as well as summer. The same reflective barrier that pushes summer heat back toward the roof also reflects your winter heating back down into the living space. Radiant heat does not have a direction preference. It reflects away from whatever shiny surface it encounters. In summer, the heat source is above, the hot roof. The barrier reflects it upward. In winter, the heat source is below, your heated living space. The barrier reflects it back down. Thomas Aldrich told me his father noticed the heating bill drop the first winter after installation as well. Not as dramatic as the summer savings, but measurable. Every year since 1958. 1 installation, 2 seasons of benefit, 66 years of performance. Why does the average American household spend over $200 a month cooling a house whose attic is cooking the rooms below? Why did the Florida Agricultural Extension Service document a 42% reduction in cooling load in 1957 and then quietly allow that bulletin to disappear from mainstream building recommendations by 1965? Why does the American HVAC industry sell $200 billion of air conditioning equipment every year when $3 per 100 square feet of reflective foil eliminates 60% of the reason that equipment has to run? You already know the answer. The radiant barrier did not fail. It was not replaced by something better. It was quietly buried at exactly the moment that a $120 billion air conditioning industry needed customers who would buy bigger machines instead of spending an afternoon with a staple gun. Thomas Aldrich's father installed that foil in 1958. Thomas has never replaced it. His son will not replace it either. I do not know what brought you here today. Maybe your cooling bill this summer crossed a number you could not justify. Maybe you have been in your attic and felt that heat and started wondering where it was going. Maybe someone told you to buy more insulation and something about that answer never felt right. Maybe you are building the kind of household that stops problems at the source instead of buying machines to fight them after they enter. It does not matter which one. $3 per 100 square feet. A roll of reflective foil. 1 afternoon with a staple gun. And the same radiant barrier that has been keeping Thomas Aldrich's upstairs bedroom at 73 degrees through Florida summers since 1958. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do next. You go to the hardware store this weekend. You buy a roll of radiant barrier foil. You spend 1 afternoon in your attic with a staple gun. And you watch your next cooling bill come in at a number you have not seen since the house was built. Now I want to ask you something specific. And I want you to actually answer in the comments. What does your cooling bill run in the hottest month of summer? Tell me your state, tell me the number, and tell me how old your house is. I read every single comment. Take it and use it. See you next time. Next video. I am going to show you why the water coming out of your tap right now may be running through pipes that are slowly poisoning every glass you pour. And the $4 fix that every plumber knew about before 1960 and that the plumbing industry quietly stopped recommending. See you then.